Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are new to the show, if you have no idea what this show is about, let me tell you. So, this is a show where we like to have that real talk about real things, particularly when it comes to things that are important to us here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We tend to focus on education, employment, mental health, physical health, social services, all these things that are important to us. So we tend to focus on those topics. But I call this an educational program, right? An educational program for adults. So this is what Hot Topics is about, and we like to be open and we like to be raw here, as open as raw as possible on this show. So today, I'm excited about this show because it's a brand new topic and I have a celebrity in the house. What? All right, so let's start with the topic of the show. The topic of the show is white actor in a slavery movie. I went straight to the point there. I couldn't think of a better title, so I'm just going for it, you guys. White actor in a slavery movie. And I have this topic because through the power of Facebook, I happen to find my guests, and she is going to all these different podcasts, and she just so happened to put up a post saying she's trying to get on a podcast. And when I saw my guest, I was like, I have to have this guest on my show. So who is this? Who is this guest? Who is this guest? Who is this person that is so brave to take on this topic? Well, let me tell you. Her name is Laura Cayouette, and I'm going to tell you briefly about who she is. So, she is best known as Leonardo DiCaprio's sister in Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. She acted over in 60 movies and TV shows, including Now You See Me, True Detective, and Friends. She's currently a recurring guest on the Oprah Winfrey, no, yeah, on Oprah Winfrey and Ava DuVernay's Queen Sugar. And she also has a book out called an ebook called How I Went from Writing One Book in 20 Years to 5 books in 4 years. And her books help writers of all skill levels tell their stories and create their projects. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to bring her to the stage right now.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to the show. So I think you're my first celebrity, I
Oh,
guess.
fun.
Uh, so you are well known as the sister in the movie Django Unchained. What was her name again? Laura Fitzwillie.
Laura Lee Candy Fitzwillie.
Yes, she had that very she had that really long name. Yeah. So welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Awesome. And thank you for taking on this tough topic. It was something that I've always wondered about. Um, and you just so happened to show up on in the Facebook group, in the podcast Facebook group. And thank you for being open to discussing it.
Yes. Well, I mean, I will admit that I have a few friends that were like, "You're doing what now?" So, but I really feel very strongly, always have, that talking about stuff uh, can disempower the things that oppress us and empower the things that exalt us. So I like
Yeah.
to talk about stuff.
Well, let's get right to it. So let's start with the basic question of, how did it even come about that uh that you that that you were in the movie Django Unchained? How did that even start? What made you decide to even take on this project?
Well, it's my fourth movie working with Quentin Tarantino. So pretty much whatever he wants me to do, I'll probably do. He did write the role with me in mind, and so when I saw the script, I was, you know, flattered, excited, thrilled, anything you would be if you saw a my name is Laura Cayouette, and the character is Laura Lee Candy Fitzwilliam, and it's described in the script as a 40-ish something strawberry 40-ish something attractive strawberry blonde Southern belle. I think it even said tall. I mean, it was so specific. It may as well have just said Laura, 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 except that it did say Laura, 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 Laura,
Yeah.
Laura. So yeah, so I was really flattered and thrilled. I still had to audition to get the part, and the studio didn't want me, and so I had to fight all that the powers that be. But yeah, I love working with Quentin, and I consider it a privilege, and I think most actors would.
All right. Right. And you worked with him before, right? On Kill Bill?
On Kill Bill, and then he also produced a movie called Daltrey Calhoun that I acted in, and then he and I produced a movie together called Hell Ride that was a biker movie starring Dennis Hopper and David Carradine and Michael Madsen, a whole bunch of other people. And also I directed a short film that he loaned me his camera for. So I guess 5 projects we've done together.
So you guys already have a very strong relationship.
We have had a relationship that has, our friendship has been over 20 years now.
Oh, wow. So he trusted you enough to even create this part for you.
Yeah. Well, although I have to give a little credit, I think I've only guessed this, but to my mother, because Quentin spent 3 days with my mother. And I think before that, he always saw me as a city girl. I was born in DC, moved to New York, then moved to LA, so I think Quentin always saw me as a city girl. And when he met my mom is one of those Southern belles. She's such a belle, she clangs, she's very feminine. And that's the best word for it. She is feminine in the extreme in a way that we just don't have a lot of anymore. And I think when he saw that, the using your femininity as your weapon system, I think he couldn't unsee it in me after he saw it in her.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. I just want to make a quick shout out. I see we have some onlookers here. So if you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat and we will answer it on screen. All right. So now take me to the process. So you have this script, right? And did you know about it before reading it, or was it a surprise, or how did that come about?
Well, I had, ever since Kill Bill, I had been reading Quentin's scripts and giving him notes on his scripts. There's a group of us. I'm not alone in this. There's a group of us that he would give his scripts to, and we would, give him notes back. And so when I first got the Django Unchained script, my first assumption was that I was just reading it for notes. I'm just taking notes and putting Post-its everywhere and all that. And then at some point I get to page 92 and read that, I think it was 92, and read that description. Now 92 is pretty far into the script. The movie's almost over in a regular movie, but his script was very long. And so when I saw this Laura Lee Candy Fitzwilly, strawberry blonde, yada, yada, I was like, wait a minute. I think this is for me. So that was how I first encountered the script. And that was about a year before the movie shot. So I had the script for a long time before I knew I had the role, before I had anything to do with shooting the movie or prepping for the movie or any of that. And so for me, that was a long time to have to prepare. Usually movies, you don't have very long, maybe a week or two at the most. And TV is fast. Like you have maybe, I've done TV with less than 24 hours turnaround to prepare everything.
Ah, okay. So it was a whirlwind for you.
Well, Django was one of the ones where I got to luxuriate. Django was one of the ones where I had the script about a year in advance, and then I got the part with still about 5 months to go before shooting. So I had a lot of time to prepare, which was really important for this particular role, because this is the kind of role you don't want to get wrong. You don't want to make cartoons of these people. You want to fill the movie with, the movie is going to have, Quentin's movies are always going to have movie elements that take it into the cartoony, or into the, well, the cartoony is not the right word, but some of the violence can be cartoony. Some of it can be so over the top, so entertaining. But we were playing with a topic that can't just be entertaining. You don't play slavery for laughs.
And speaking of that, I guess hence the topic of the show. So what was going to, tell us what you were feeling, what were you thinking as you were playing this role? Because, slavery is a very hot button topic. So, and what are your thoughts? What are your feelings as you're playing this role, as you're playing such a serious role in a very serious movie?
I've actually grappled with this topic far before the movie, because, and this is something that Quentin wanted. He wanted the actors who were playing Southerners to be actual Southerners. He wanted, he wanted a level of authenticity. And the reason for that is he wanted us to explore our psychic scars. And so the people playing the house slaves that I had the same downtime with, where we were hanging out together, we would spend our downtime talking about our family histories. And a lot of the people who were playing the house slaves were the children's of slaves. And I am the child's child of slave owners. So that was something that we explored as a group, and individually. We all went home and did our own sort of, not just homework on the era, homework like you would do out of books, but actually sitting down with our families, looking at our own records, stories, paying attention in a new way to things that we maybe have heard our whole lives about. Oh, the story about this person or that person. We have a story that's been passed down in my family for generations about that the slave owners that were the big time, the very wealthy slave owners in my family. The woman from whom I'm descended, of that family, she fell in love with the overseer, and her father said, if you choose him, then we will disinherit you. And she chose him and was disinherited. So my branch of the family has no money, but my branch of the family, chose love over money. And I love thinking that that is born into me. However, I am also the child of her father, who is the man who disinherited her for loving who she loved. So, it's convenient for me to be from the side of the family that had this strong woman who chose love over money. But one generation behind her is this guy who was more than happy to have hundreds of slaves. So that's a lot to grapple with. It's a lot to look at. And all my life, I've looked at it intellectually or familially. This was the first time that I literally walked a mile in her shoes. Like I had to wear the same clothing that she wore and have the same hairdos that she had. And, I don't know if I knew in advance how much that would impact me. But one thing that got very clear very quickly, the second that I had the clothing on, was I can't pee without help. Like that's just a reality. When you're in that outfit, you're a prisoner of some kind, that you can't fend for yourself in that outfit. And so I thought, so then slavery becomes this very intimate thing that involves peeing. And so now I'm thinking of it not intellectually or, through family romanticized stories or whatever. I'm thinking of it in a practical way of like, So somebody would have the job of facilitating me relieving myself. Like that's what we're coming down to in the moment, like that, you know? That it's somebody's job to help me pee and poo. I don't know. It put a different reality on it.
Right, and it's something as simple as going to the bathroom. It just made you think, oh wow, the fact that slaves had to help women do this back in the day.
Yeah, the intimacy level was extreme. It also really put into fine print for me I mean, in an extreme way, that this the imprisoning of women in their clothing, like that's a separate issue entirely. But the slavery era goes with that era of women wearing those types of clothing, and that women certainly had it better than slaves. White women certainly had it better than slaves. They were not the same type of prisoner. But there is this thing of like everybody but the slave owners is being hampered somehow, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, being made smaller somehow, or made, well, our dresses were huge, but made less mobile.
Mm, right, and then that it also plays into um, what white women had to go through as well in terms of the clothes that they had to wear, and
Well,
the
and they weren't allowed to own property and all that kind of stuff. So, not in every state, but we were supposed to be set in Mississippi, and in Mississippi, that character could not, Laura Lee Candy Fitzwillie, could not have owned property. So it's not like she's owned by her brother. That's an entirely different situation. But she is under his control. I mean, if she were to leave, she doesn't have anything of her own.
Hmm. So it's a lot of different factors into the movie that you have to get into, that you have to mentally get into. You have to get into, what it's like being a white woman back in that time, and what's it like being a white woman who owned slaves, right? And then your character, I think she lived with her brother, right?
Yeah, she was a widow, so she had gotten to leave and have another life, but he died. Her husband died, so she had to come back to where, her brother's a Mandingo warrior, fighting lover, and I mean, does that make sense? He loves watching Mandingo fights. So, that is not this is a very lacy, frilly woman coming back to a very brutal environment. Certainly wouldn't have been her choice. She was enjoying the life of a married lady. And that's one thing that we were trying to do in the film, that a lot of it got cut, was the whole thing of when I'm presented as, where's my beautiful sister? He's trying to marry me off and get me out of the house again. And so every time a new visitor comes to the house, he presents me as, here's my beautiful sister, take her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into the steamy part. Let's see how far you're willing to go with this. So in the movie is very infamous for saying the N-word.
Oh yeah.
And the N-word is said a lot.
Over 100 times.
So can you, and I believe you had to say it in the movie. So tell us your experience in having to say that word.
I guess it's funny, and what happened, because I when I got the script, my character never said it, and I was thrilled because it's a foreign word to me, and I actually have a house rule that people are not allowed to use that word in my home. And I've had people buck against me saying, yeah, but that's my brother. I'm allowed to call him what I want to call him. And I'm like, yeah, in your house, you can call him what you want to call him. In my house, nobody accidentally gets their feelings hurt by that word. So the only way to ensure that is that word never appears in my house. So I have a very strict policy on that. And I have found that an easier way to live is just to have this line in the sand. And so I was thrilled that my character didn't have to say it. And I thought it said something about her, that she didn't use this coarse language. And so I I was very happy. And I showed up to work day one, and Quentin is all excited for me to start my job. And he's running over with a piece of paper with writing all over it. He hand writes in Sharpie, and he comes running over with this piece of paper, and the whole thing is writing. And he goes, "I wrote you a bunch of lines, a new bunch of lines." And I'm like excited, right? I only have now right now to memorize it all and perform it all, but he's giving me this whole page of new dialogue to add to the scene that day that we were shooting, my very first day. And so I'm like, "Oh, wow, thanks. He's made my part so much bigger." I start skimming it, and I was like, whoa, wait. It says that she says the N-word here. And he was like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Oh, I'm sure you forgot. My character doesn't say that word." And he's like, "Oh, the hell she doesn't."
Like, whoops,
"Oh,
surprise.
really?" So I said to him, I said, "Look, I've never said that word." And so I'm a little nervous how it's going to come out for me. And he said, "Well, you have to say it like you say it all day. You have to say it like it doesn't mean a thing to you. You have to say it like you're ordering bread. Like you can't have any heat behind it. It has to just be a word that you would call a person, like neighbor, like just think of a different N-word. Just like you just can't think of it that way." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll work on it." And he goes, "No, say it now." So we're in my trailer, and I'm like, right now? And he's like, "Yeah, say it now." So I say it, and he goes, "Pitiful." Okay.
Like a
So he
wussy.
goes, "What?"
Like a wussy.
Yes. So he says, "Say it again." So I say it again. He's like, "Terrible." Say it again. So I say it again. He's like, "Say it again." Now, anybody walking by my trailer is hearing me say the N-word and then him yell, "Say it again." And me say the N-word and him say it again. So, but I understood his point. He wanted it to have a sense of having no import, no meaning, I don't even bother to insult the slaves with this word. Like,
Yeah.
that's how little it means to me.
I think you only say it once, right?
I only say it once, but that's how much work I put into it, because it just was a lot. And I will say, for a lot of the actors, black and white, that word is a hot button. And a lot of us, had not said it before, or didn't want to say it, or what, and obviously we had big talks about that there was going to be a lot of talk about how many times it was used in the movie.
Yeah. So now you only said this word once, and yet you felt all these feelings about it.
Well, because saying it once on film means I said it probably 50, 60 times that day.
Right, because then the movie's going to be replayed over and over again.
Well, because when we shoot it, we, like, say I do 13 takes of the master, and then I'll do maybe 15 takes of the over the shoulder shot to Christoph, and then another 20 takes of over Christoph's shoulder to me and Carrie and Dana. And then, so by the time you finish it, even if you've only done 10 takes of each camera angle, you've still done like 30, 40 takes. So it's a lot. Even to just say it one time, you have to say it dozens and dozens of times. Or I did, because of, I'm not saying that Quentin is Stanley Kubrick, but he does want to get things right. And so you do you do a lot of takes.
And it sounds like he was a perfectionist.
A little bit. I mean, he's not crazy, he's not bent, but he wants everything to be right. He really cares about his audience, and he knows that his movies stay around for a long time. They're studied at universities, like, he gets it, that he has a responsibility.
Yeah. So I just wanted you to have some fanfare. I'm just going to put that up here. Love you, Laura Cayouette. All right. Just wanted to put that public comment out there. All right. So now So for all the other, I don't think about what I'm trying to say here. So your co-stars, did you listen to them as they did their parts, or did you just go home after you did yours?
You know, typically when you're working, if there's something that you really want to watch, you'll stay and watch that one scene or two. But typically, if you're not working, you know you need your rest. I mean, we were working really, really, really crazy hours. So when we weren't working, we would go home. That said, I would get text messages and stuff all the time from the set. Our set was an extremely active set. Lots of stuff was happening. And in particular, I'll tell you the 2 days I got the most text messages and the most activity coming from the set to me at home was one, the day where Leo smashed the glass and cut his hand. Obviously, everybody knows that story. And so when he, needed stitches and all that, I got a bunch of texts from people saying, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened." I had just left. So I literally missed that by minutes. And so everybody was like, "Laura, you can't believe what just happened." But the other day that I got a lot of messages about, phone calls, texts, and also emails, all sorts of things about, was the day of the whipping scene. I was not there for the day of the whipping scene at they shot that out at Oak Alley, and which is a real plantation. And people say that plantation is haunted. And whatever you want to think of that, certainly energy can be stirred up. Whether you believe in hauntings or whether you just believe in physics, energy is a real thing and it can get stirred up. And on the day they were shooting the whipping scene, that energy around that place started getting very stirred up, and people started feeling everything from nausea to tingles, like all sorts of weird physical experiences that they were having about being out there. But the thing that everybody noticed, that they all felt the need to mention to me, was that we were an extremely integrated cast. We did everything together all the time. I mean, grueling work hours, and we are all on deck all the time. And there's 400 people involved in this movie before you cast it. Like, that's just the crew. So, and then there's probably 100 actors in it. So it's a giant group of people coming together to make something that we care about.
Yeah.
And on the day of the whipping scene, what I was told by both my Black friends and my white friends and coworkers and co-stars was that everybody self-segregated. As the day wore on, the white people stood with white people and the Black people stood with Black people, the more that the whipping happened. And
you mean as part of the movie or something?
No,
just
as they're standing on the sidelines watching,
Oh,
yeah, because even if there's like only 3 people in front of the camera, there can literally be a few hundred right outside watching. So yeah, that group, that few hundred people that were outside of the camera that are watching, started self-segregating and putting a middle, making a little divider line, because they were having 2 totally different experiences of that moment. And I wasn't there, so I don't know what it felt like, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing that for Black folks, that was I can't even imagine. And then for white folks, I imagine if you hadn't already done your exploration of your own culpability, your own, white guilt, your own whatever, that was a day where it's really like in your face. It's in your face. Our people did this to your people.
I mean, you can. I'm sure you. I mean, well, you said you can't imagine, but I'm sure I can imagine. It, 2 different sets of people watching the same thing and each getting their own experience from it. So, I'm surprised that people self-segregated.
I was too, because we were such an integrated group and we did everything together. We had all these activities. Quentin likes to create like a family out of the cast and crew. And so we roll like that. And the movie took 10 months to shoot. You can have we did have entire children made out of that. Like, 10 months is enough time for people to fall in love, meet, fall in love, and have a baby. So, we had a very all the cast and crews on all of Quentin's movies are always very, very family. They're very, all mixed up in each other. And I wasn't there that day, but that is what I heard. And I heard it from enough people that I have no choice but to believe that's what happened.
Mm. And what were your thoughts as people told you that? What was
I was really glad I wasn't there that day. I was really glad I wasn't there that day because I feel like that for me, the discomfort wouldn't come from facing my family history. I've already done that. For me, the discomfort would come from knowing that somewhere in the world that's happening to somebody and it's not on camera and it's not fake.
Yeah.
There are slaves today. And whether they are slaves because of their race or slaves because of their gender or it doesn't matter. There are slaves today. And right now, as we are talking and having fun, talking about a movie and all, there's somebody who is at the end of somebody's whip. That bothers me.
Right. It bothers you that as you think about the reality of the fact that there were people there were Black people that were treated as slaves, that were subjugated to that treatment. So it's the fact that there was a whole race of people that was at the mercy of another race of people, and they were at the mercy by force. And you had to, that's the thing with acting, you have to mentally get into it. You have to pretend that it's you in order to fulfill the role. And so so the fact that you had to mentally put yourself into it, I can imagine that's a toll that takes a toll on you.
It does. Now, obviously, the toll it takes on the actor is minuscule in comparison to the toll it took on our ancestors. I mean, the psychic scars of what happened to, the people that came before us are still trickling down to us. There's still, we are still living with what the after effects are of beating an entire, 7 generations of people, more. I don't even know how many generations of people that we, beat into submission. And when you do that, you're hard driving that into an entire, I mean, these are American people. These are Americans living on American soil, dragged to America. And, when you think whether they were kings and queens or whether they were just bakers and mothers and farmers and whatever, they're dragged from their home to help some rich white lady pee in a dress she shouldn't be wearing anyway, because it's obscene how much space it takes. And then if they don't help the lady pee the right way, then they're going to be physically hurt over it. And they are unable to choose where they live or how they live or even what they eat. And, it's just the whole thing. If you really, really let your mind go there, and it's hard not to when you go to these sites, when one of the reasons that shooting at Oak Alley was painful for the people that were there that day is Oak Alley has slave quarters behind it. And you can look inside and see what was the life. They have manifests of the slaves who were sold and bought on that property and listing them like property. Well, listing them as property, not like property, listing them as property and giving them a dollar value. And those papers are there. You can look at that. The same was true when we were shooting at Evergreen, which is the place where the Don Johnson character lives. When Jamie comes up in the blue suit, the funny scene, that's another working plantation. That's actually an up and running current plantation. They still sell sugarcane there. Plantation actually is just another word for farm. It's just we've set that word aside to somehow include the era of the antebellum slavery. But yeah, that farm is still a farm. So, no slaves, just a farm. And and we built the Candyland set behind Evergreen. So that plantation is the only one that has the original slave quarters back there. So you can go back there and I mean, maybe not, maybe if you're not an actor, you don't have this happen, but you know, it's my job to put my mind, to remove my ego and allow other egos to come in.
Yeah.
And so walking through that environment, for me, it was impossible not to hear activity, you know, the hoes going into the ground as they're digging their personal gardens for their own food and for their own money, you know, so they could trade things at Congo Square for other goods, or trade things to each other for, you know, on the plantation themselves. It was hard not to hear children. You know, children can find a way to be playful no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And so it was hard not to hear that, and then know that that was not their childhood, that they could be found playing once in a while, but that was not their childhood. And yeah, just the whole experience, when you look inside the building and you see the size of the building, and then you hear, oh, 10 people lived in this building, you're like, really? Because it's the size of my bedroom. So 10 people were living as a family unit in this room that is the size of my bedroom. And they're living as a family unit doesn't mean they're family. They might not even all speak the same language. They're just thrown together as a family. It's just whoever didn't get sold off, or whoever got bought, or what, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, there's a lot to process, especially
It's a lot.
just being on a plantation, you know, it's a lot to process. And I guess I got to give Quentin Tarantino credit. He really wanted the experience. It's like,
Well, you
you
know
know,
what?
yeah.
The most responsible thing he did, I think, about this movie, because he did a lot of things really right, because he understood the line he was walking on. So he engaged people early on who would be sort of his police, to let him know, oh, this is too much, or this is, you know, not realistic, or this is whatever. And he doesn't make documentaries, so he doesn't care about realism, but he does care about authenticity, not getting it accurate, not accuracy, but authenticity, that you would have a true experience. And that's true even if it's a very silly moment, or that, you know, he wants you to have a true experience as a film goer. And so to me, the most sophisticated thing he did was that Quentin has spent his entire career having a conversation with us about on-screen violence in movies. And that movie, to me, is the most sophisticated part of that discussion that he's been having with us for 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is. Because in that movie, the violence between the white folks is all very over the top, cartoony. You know, even when it's just Django and the white folks, it's all very like blood, you know, blood bursting, and, you know, it's operatic. It's way over the top, and
Yeah.
you're like eating your popcorn and enjoying watching people murder each other, you know. So
a whole lot of blood in your face.
right. But whenever the violence was against the slaves, it was just straight up violence. There was nothing entertaining about it. There was nothing cool about it. It wasn't shot in a way that was cinematic. It wasn't for you to sit and eat popcorn too. It was just, and then this happened.
Mm. So are you saying, like, when it comes to slavery, um, in order to portray the actual experience, there has to be over the top violence, or
No, I'm
is
saying
it
the
more
opposite.
like
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that when Quentin shot all the scenes that weren't really about slavery, he had fun making violence into things that are fun to watch. And when it was violence against slaves, like the whipping scene, um, he just shot it as violence against human beings.
hmm.
Painful, scary, sad, upsetting.
And also I'm hearing you say that, and now I'm wondering, is that something intentional or is that something psychological? Like you don't
It's
even.
something intentional of him
Mhm.
saying there's nothing entertaining about hurting slaves. There's
Yeah.
nothing here to this is just part of the story, but this is not the entertaining part of the story.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I want to make sure I get this question in before we wrap up. So now I'm wondering, after the movie is done, did you feel any white guilt? How did you feel? Did you start apologizing to Black people?
No.
Like I'm just wondering, like how the movie's done and it's out and people are watching it. Like, did you feel any sort of white guilt? You did you treat Black people differently? Did you treat like how? Tell
Well,
me about the
maybe
aftermath of the movie.
maybe because I had spent so much of my life aware of my family's history and so much of my life contextualizing my family's history with my family, like having open discussions with my family and my friends growing up. I had a lot of open discussions with my friends, both Black and white, who we were able to have open discussions about our own family heritage and all that. But so I think because of that, I didn't feel overwhelmed with white guilt. Um, I will say I was really hoping that we had done justice to the suffering while still making a wildly entertaining movie. And I think we did.
Right, right. And as you brought up a point in our preliminary meeting that this movie sort of became the precursor to a lot of other slavery movies that are out there now. Can you
It did.
explain that point more?
It did. Well, right away, 12 Years a Slave and The Butler were filming, like as we were finishing, they were starting. So a lot of people went straight from our set to one of those sets or both of those sets. And so after Django, Butler, and 12 Years wrapped, there were a lot of actors here in New Orleans that were like, that's it. I'm cashed out. I'm not playing anymore. Like for Black folks, it was like, I'm done with slaves. I don't want to play any more slaves. And for white folks, it was like, I'm never saying the N word again. I do not want anything to do with these people. I do not want to play these slave owners ever again. So, there was a burnout that happened because our area did 3 movies right in a row that were all on that topic.
Yeah.
And then after that, there was this explosion. It continues to be this explosion of movies on the topic of slavery or slave rebellion or that antebellum era, and or Black westerns. Lots of westerns with Black characters now. So I would say that all of that is for the good, that we are willing to have discussions, many types of discussions, many types of movies and all that about that era. That said, as an actor, I don't ever need to play another slave owner. And I mean, I can't even say that she was a racist because she was so freaking ignorant in the way she was raised that I don't even think she was so racist she didn't even know she was racist. You know what I mean? Because she was just born
Yeah.
and raised to that world. And I don't think she ever confronted herself in any way about that. That said, she does seem to have understood that, her friends are like Cora, her house slave that is her right-hand man, the one that would help her pee.
Yeah.
I think she gets the value of like, that's a real friend to her. That's a real person in her life that she values. And I don't think she sees her as 3/5 of a person. I think she sees her as one whole friend. So I think that if you did another movie of the Laura Lee Cora story, that the big shock for Laura Lee would be when Cora decides to pick herself over Laura Lee. Laura Lee might be surprised that Cora doesn't feel the same way about their friendship that she does. Like Cora is being paid, not even being paid. Cora is being held captive to be her friend. And
Yeah.
I don't know if Laura gets that. I don't know if Laura Lee understands, because she is her own kind of prisoner. She's ignorant herself, and she doesn't have a lot of experience with another way of being. So I don't know. I'm glad to not have to play Laura Lee. I'm glad it's not a TV series where I have to play her for 8 years.
Because that'll be too much for you emotionally.
Yeah. Well, and I think for everybody, and honestly, I can't imagine that it's not way worse for the people who are the children of the slaves than it is for the children of the slave owners, because obviously, I'm still enjoying white privilege. That's still the world that I got born into, is that I got born into a world where being white, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to have more advantages. I'm going to have more doors open to me.
And that's good that you're self-aware, because I would think, like, after the movie's done, like, that's the thing with movies, like, as soon as it's done, you can just forget about it and move on. And and with you, like, I mean, I think the movie was like 10 years ago.
It was 10 years now.
Yeah, it was so long ago. But yeah, it's sort of like, with the movie's done, you felt everything that you felt, and you were challenged, like, emotionally, spiritually, and then the movie's done, and then it's like, okay, I get to go back to normal now. Which is kind of, funny when it comes to acting. Um,
It's a weird life. It is. It's a weird life. But it's a Buddhistic life insofar as, the way they train the Dalai Lama is to have him grow compassion through walking a mile in everybody's shoes. And that's kind of what actors do. We walk a mile in everyone's shoes, and that does help us to grow, or can help us to grow compassion for people who have a different circumstance than we do.
So now, just to go back to an earlier point, so in terms of your life, like, now after the movie's done, so you said that you had a lot more discussions with your peers. So now, I'm just wondering if the movie changed your insight about politics, about like gerrymandering, or
well, I'm pretty adamant about all that coming into it. I would say that politically it didn't change anything for me, because I remember busing in the 70s. A lot of people that are listening to this probably aren't alive at that time, but I remember busing in the 70s, and I remember what a raw deal it was for there to be 1 to 2 kids in my classroom who didn't know anybody, didn't look like any of us. And I immediately gravitated to them, because I thought, that's so unfair to just stick you in this room and hope you make friends. So I've been political about this since I was a little kid in school, because it was obvious to me since I was a little kid in school that this is pretty effed up. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And also because I lived in Japan from ages 2 till 5. And I was the only one in a lot of rooms, the only person that looked like me in a lot of the rooms that I went to in Japan. Now, it's very different for me, because in Japan, they didn't hate me for being white. So, it wasn't the same experience of racism that we have in this country or many other countries, or that you might have in Japan. They might treat you like crap in Japan. I don't know. I haven't been to Japan as a Black person. But I will say that having that experience of being the only one in a room over and over sensitized me to the idea of being a minority, of being an only one. of not having the safety in numbers and not having my culture be shared with those around me, not agreeing on what is good food or good music, or so I've been sensitive to that since I was a kid. So my politics did not change much. I think the biggest thing that changed is I have this group of people in this city now. I still live in New Orleans, and I have a group of people in this city now that we went through something together that was unique and rare. That wasn't just about making movies. That's already unique and rare. But this thing of us sharing this experience that was about looking at our histories, when we all live in a city that is so historically driven. We live in a city
Yeah.
where there's going to, if I walk out my door right now, there could be a horse-drawn carriage rolling by. And so, we live in this very historic environment, and we're still with the same children's of the people who were here hundreds of years ago. So now I have this shared experience with people who, for all I know, I'm related to. That's one thing about being the children's of, is that just because you and I don't look anything alike doesn't mean you're not my cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it was. And my mom taught me that also from when I was very young. She taught me that anybody that had our family name might be one of us, no matter what they look like, because you just can't know what went on in those fields.
Yeah, like the Jeffersons.
You just don't know. You just don't know. And so there's really, my brother and I were taught that there's really no way to know where you end and the rest of the world begins.
That's right. That's absolutely right. All right, we got to start to wind things down now. All right, so is there any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Oh, Lord.
Any parting words that you'd like to leave with us?
Oh, sure. But on the topic of race, I don't know that I'm qualified to speak on the topic of parting words on race, other than
or anything that comes to mind.
I could quote Rodney King. Why can't we all just get along? So, I guess I do want people to know that, whether you're interested in being an actor or telling stories in another way, I'm an author as well. Whatever way you choose to tell stories, it is really important to respect the nature of the story. If you're writing a story about goblins or witches or whatever, I guess you could, have it be very Halloweeny and very commercial and very silly, and who cares? You're not offending the goblin community. But if you are telling stories in the world of our world, then it's important to respect that you live in the world. And Quentin was very brave in opening himself to the slings and arrows that he knew would and might come, for choosing to tell this story in this way, and particularly him being a white man telling this story in this way. And I guess I am grateful that he is such a responsible storyteller and cares so deeply about the stories he tells, that he brings dignity to the characters and to the stories he tells, no matter how sticky they are. This was about as sticky a wicket as he ever walked into. And I think he handled it. I'm very glad he was brave enough to do it, because now look, here it is 10 years later, we're still having more TV shows and movies coming off of the popularity of that one. And we are still having the conversation. And that was his biggest goal. He wanted everybody to have a conversation. And here we are 10 years later, still talking about that movie and its contribution to this eternal conversation about how do we all deal with the fact that we don't all look alike, and yet we are all people.
Yeah. Sorry, you have some more fanfare. I just wanted to shout that out here. Thanks. This is wonderful. Hugs to you as always, Laura, and to you, Gabrielle.
Thank you, Mary.
All right. And I will make this point, and it looks like we're going to go over time, but that's okay. That it helps having the support of, for doing a movie like this, and especially, there there were other similar movies around the time and even before. It helps to have the support of Black people and Black actors. I can imagine. I don't know if you heard of the comedian Roy Wood Jr., but he did in one of his specials, he did a piece about Leonardo DiCaprio and him having to play his character in the movie, and the fact that he was like, he killed it in that movie. Like, it takes a lot for a white actor to play, to do that job and do it so well. Like, he did it so well, he had to lay low for 10 years. Like, it's like, I wish I could play it, but I recommend everyone see that special. Roy Wood Jr. It's called Imperfect Messenger. There's a little part where he talks about Leonardo DiCaprio and his role in it. But basically,
by the way, Leo, his a lot of people in this community travel with their assistants, and they have a small group, a little entourage of people who are with them their whole lives, that take care of them. And many, 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 many of the people in my community, the people that are the person they choose as their assistant, is either a family member or somebody they've been to school with since elementary school. It's somebody they trust to love them before the money showed up, to love them before the fame showed up. And Leo's entourage was his school buddies who were non-white. And so I thought about that, about how he's every day got his non-white entourage with him. And then they were all staying in the same house, a haunted house. It was seriously haunted. Everybody knows about that house, and they stayed in that house. So, and they would come in every day with these stories of like, you're not going to believe what happened last night. And I believe it because everybody in this neighborhood knows about that house. But yeah, so I don't know what that was like for them to go through that experience. I mean, they've gone through a million experiences since, because Leo's fame started young, and those boys have been together since elementary school. So I wondered what that experience was like for them, that, all through the day, he's pretending to be this horrifying, blood-curdling slave owner. And then he and his buddies who work for him, who are also not white, are going to spend the evening hanging out together. I don't know what that dynamic must have been like in that house, but
I think the comedian mentioned in the special, like, nobody wants to talk to you after you done say it. So, oh God, I wish I could play it. But yeah, all that to say, like, it takes the support of, like, I'm sure, like, in the moment, it was a lot of tension and like, oh, I don't want to be around you right now. But when you're mentally in it, but then after, it's like, okay, it falls away. But which is kind of funny with acting. But yeah, the fact that I think the movie also did very well, and which is the point I was trying to make, is that you have the support of Black actors. So you have people like Samuel L. Jackson and Jamie Foxx supporting it, saying this is what it is, know.
Well, we had RZA doing the music, and we had a lot of people come by the set and just hang out and make sure we were on the right track. Whether it was people like Rick Ross or what, we had people just come by and hang out and give their 2 cents while we were filming, just to make sure we were on the right track.
Right. And I think that's one of the good things that Quentin did, was like, he involved these Black actors in the creative process. I think I remember, like, an interview that Jamie Foxx did about, like, he wanted to make the movie in a way, I guess, that his son will understand, or he wanted to make the movie for his son. Mm-hmm. So he designed his character in a way that, that'll pass on, that he can use to explain to his family. So I guess that's one of the good things about Quentin Tarantino. He involved other, Black actors in the creative process. And I think that helped a lot. Like, he wasn't just a one view man, Like, this is
Right.
all about me and whatever my vision is and whatever my just. No, he's like, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think.
Right.
I want to know what you think. And he incorporated it into the process. And I think
Well, I
that.
said he does that from the beginning of the process. From the minute he finishes the script, he hands it to a small group of people and has them read it. So he does that throughout the entire process from the very beginning. He's always involving other voices and always involving other opinions, and not assuming that he doesn't make his movies for an audience of one. He makes his movies for us. He wants you to have a good time. He wants me to have a good time. He wants, when we are at the theater, for us to be like, this is the best movie I've ever seen.
Right. Someone probably looked over your part and was like, wait, why doesn't she say the N-word? And that's why he made those changes. Like, no, everyone's got to say it. You gotta say it too. And that's probably why he made those changes for you. But yeah. Whew. All right, we got to wrap this up. We are over time, but that is okay. But let's jump ahead to the promo now. Thank you so much for this, Laura. I know this was a lot. This is a lot, but you made it
Well,
through.
it is
So
a
thank you
lot,
for
but
that. Yeah.
I think I'm a big storyteller. I think storytelling is one of the most important teaching tools that we have. It's one of the most important. Um, it is our path to immortality, is to tell your stories. And that's one reason I wrote Writing Unblocked, the thing about writing one, going from writing one book in 20 years to 5 books in 4 years, because I truly believe that everybody has at least one story in them. And when we have the courage to tell our stories, that's when things can actually get better, get different, change, grow. We
And
can learn
on
from each
that
other.
note, beautiful segue. All right. So you have an ebook called Writing Unblocked, How I Went from Writing One Book in 20 Years to 5 Books in 4 Years. You guys can purchase it online. The website is on the screen right now for my video people. For my audio people, don't worry. All of this will be in the description. So can you tell us briefly about your ebook?
Well, first of all, you can just go to lauracayouette.com, and there's links there that'll take you to the ebook and also the accompanying 6-video course on creating characters. And for your audience, if they enter the coupon code Hot Topics Podcast, 3 words, all caps, Hot Topics Podcast, then they can get a 20% discount. So I wrote the book because I wanted to facilitate everybody being able to tell their stories. I really do believe that we all have a story within us. We all have a book within us. And so few people, everybody has that. So many people are like, oh, I have a great idea for a story. I have a great idea for a book. And so few have the tools to figure out how to turn that into something concrete. And I'll be honest with you, I got a master's degree in creative writing and English literature, and that was the information I used that took me 20 years to write my first book. Because just knowing how to write, which is what I learned getting my master's, doesn't mean I knew how to write a book, how to create a project. And that is something that, oddly enough, being in the film industry taught me. Being in film and TV taught me, you can't wait for the muse. We don't wait for inspiration. We don't,
Yeah.
You shoot rain or shine, man. You shoot if people are sick. You shoot like you don't care. You get stuff done. And so I took everything I learned from how do we get everything done, rain or shine, whatever. Took everything I learned from that and applied it to everything I learned from getting my master's and created what I call the 3-step prep. And now I am off to the races. I can tell any story anytime. I'm very excited about this. I just yesterday opened a box that I taped up shut in 2015, thinking, well, I can't get to that project right now. And I just opened it up last night going, oh God, I hope I used the 3-step prep when I did this project, or I'm going to have to spend another couple of years figuring out the research I already did. And sure enough, when I opened it up, all my prep was all there. And so I am already started getting my next project going because I figured out this way that is just fast, easy, and fun that gets my books written now.
Wow. Okay. So it's more convenient.
Yes, yes, and it means now that I can start a project like many people do, and then think, I don't really know what I want to do with this right now. Oh, I don't have time for this right now. Oh, I'm dealing with health problems right now. Oh, whatever, and come back to it later. And I am doing that right now, and I'm proving that this method works no matter how screwy you apply it. I'm still able to just jump right in and get my project going again.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh man, so the creative process is, it's a lot, and it's beautiful when it comes out, and you have your vision and then you see it all out on paper, and yeah, it's a beautiful
Well,
thing.
yeah. And everybody has different ways of storytelling. Some people use photos, some people use videos, some people use acting or directing or producing or filmmaking, some people use music, whatever. But whatever it is you have to express inside yourself, I consider it a privilege to try and help people express themselves. I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things that movies like Django Unchained are attempting to do, is to give voice to the voiceless, to give a vision to a time that was shuttered away, and let's just not talk about that anymore. And now you can smell it and see it and taste it and hear it through movies, through acting, through books, through
through everything.
yeah. And whatever you don't remember, you're doomed to repeat. So we have to remember that this country was born in slavery, and that we owe a lot to the free labor that we stole from other countries to help build ours.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. All right, let's make sure we get this other stuff in. So you have an e-course called Creating Characters. Tell us about that.
I do. Well, so that one is, it's basically, you can use it. I've designed it to go with the book, but you can use it without the book, and you can use it for acting or for writing characters. But I designed it to go with the book to help explain how it is that I come up with all the ideas for my characters. Because I know a lot of people, they know the story they want to tell, but they don't know how to make each character sound individual, have them have a different voice, or
Yeah.
and they don't know. They know that they want to like go online and find those biographies and fill them in and whatever, but then so now they know their character's favorite color. How does that help? So I basically am saying, yes, we all need some kind of exercises to help us figure out who our characters are. But how about let's use some exercises that maybe actors use and stuff, that are exercises that actually help you move the story forward, so that you're not just coming up with details, but they're details that are actually germane to your story. So it's not just like, he had wavy hair. Okay, great. But he had wavy hair that tells us something about him, or that tells us something about the people that look at him and how they see him, or that tells it, otherwise, who cares about his wavy hair? He could be bald. It's not a detail you need. So how do you find details, and how do you create characters? How do you create individual humans who are capable of doing their own thing and taking their own journeys, and not having them sound all the same, and especially not having them all sound just like you.
So this is a course to help, I guess, directors, actors, even writers.
Well, it's for authors.
Kind of create the character that. For authors. Oh, okay.
Right, but it can be used by actors, directors. Yeah.
All right, so it's a creative project. So for authors that want to generate their characters, and what characteristics do they have, and what do they look like, and what time period is it, what race are they, this is a course to help them to discover that.
Right, but in a way that helps move your story forward, a way that helps create your story instead of just random information about people.
All right, beautiful.
Or ducks, so whatever your characters are.
All right, so you got that there. Fabulous.
Yeah, and the coupon applies to that as well.
Yeah, so all right, I just made that banner, so I'm just going to reiterate. So
it's actually I can do it like that. I haven't done it yet. I can do it that as all one word. So I haven't done the code yet.
Okay. All right. So
if you want, I'll do it as all one word.
Yeah, all one word is fine.
Okay.
All right, so she just gave y'all a special coupon. So it's the ebook and the e-course. So if you use the coupon code Hot Topics Podcast,
Yeah, give me
right?
like 10 minutes so I can go put it on there.
All right, so she's gonna make that code right now. All right, so Hot Topics Podcast is the coupon code. She just made it exclusively for the viewers and the listeners. 20% off sales price, 20% off the e-course, 20% off the ebook. She just created that. She's going to create that coupon right now. So when you enter the code Hot Topics Podcast, all one word, you will get 20% off the sales price. So there you go. There you go. She just made that coupon. Well, she's going to make it.
Yeah.
right on the spot.
I promise.
So look out for that coupon. So wait about 10, 15 minutes and then make that purchase with that coupon, you guys. So of course, the coupon is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. For those of you watching this on video, but my audio people, because this will be on the audio part of the podcast. This coupon code will be in the description. So don't worry if you missed it. It will be available one way or the other. And there's a lot. You have a whole catalog. You have a whole book
I've written
catalog on Amazon. So I wanted to make sure we mention that as well.
And you know what? As a side note, the books on Amazon, the 5 mystery books are set in New Orleans. But one thing that I was trying to do with those books is I attempted to write them what I called post-racially. I tried to use language. I tried to never use colors to describe humans. I am not actually the color white. You are not actually the color black. And so what a ridiculous thing to throw all the people of light skin in the word white and all the people of darker skin in the word black and think, oh, now I know what they look like. So in all of the Charlotte Reed mysteries, I attempted to describe who is talking without ever using the words white or black. And that it was, for the most part, easy enough that I don't know why we just don't do that. There was a trickier one. Book 3, Charlotte Reed is an actor, and she solves her mysteries by understanding human nature. And she does a movie in book 3, The Missing Ingredient. And in that movie, the movie is called 7 Sisters, and 3 of the sisters are black, 3 of the sisters are white, and 1 of the sisters is Asian. And I had to figure out how to describe 7 sisters without ever using the words black, white, and Asian.
So how did you describe it? So now,
with delicacy, with imagination, because it's actually not that hard if you think about it. If I say, hundreds of tiny braids peeked out from under his knit cap, that's not a white guy. I don't need to tell you that he's not a white guy, right? I mean, unless it's like the Gary Oldman character in True Romance, there's no white guy with
questionable.
But you're gonna fill in the blanks you're gonna fill in the blanks, and you're probably not gonna put Brad Pitt in that,
Yeah.
So
it's
well, here's the other thing is that it doesn't matter if you get it wrong.
It's easy to assume, and I guess it's when it comes to books, you're using your imagination anyway.
You're filling it in.
It's not a hard and fast
you're black and you're only assuming I'm white, right? I mean, I don't know how much of you is black. You don't know how much of me is white. I'm just assuming that you're black. You're assuming that I'm white because of our skin colors. But I don't know your heritage. You don't know my heritage. So it's not accurate any which way. And so if I choose better language that's actually more descriptive, that tells you something actual about what the person actually looks like than a color that we know they're not, I think that's better. I think if you're going to be inaccurate, at least you'll be more creatively inaccurate.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing with with the literary arts. You're being fruitful, you're being colorful, you're being, so you don't actually have to say the word white or black or any of that, but you can be descriptive, and your mind, whoever's reading it, because everyone has their own experience, but whoever is reading it will fill in the blanks however they want.
That's the other thing is I figured out there's a character named Tina in book 3 that I didn't, all I said was that she pulls her ponytail through the back of her baseball cap. I never said anything else to describe her physically. I just have her personality. Her personality is very well described, but her looks, all I have is that she's crew on the movie. So I just have that she has her ponytail pulled through the back of her hat. White people who read it assume that Tina is a white girl. Black people who read it assume that Tina is a black girl. And I don't care.
Yeah.
What could I?
Right. And I mean, to me, okay, long hair through a baseball cap, I would automatically assume white.
I didn't say long. She just pulls her, it could be a puff.
Yeah. Right. On my mind, I'm like, okay, it's a white girl, but it's, but someone else reading it may be like, oh, it's somebody Chinese or, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
We got our favorite fan made a next comment. Yes, I like to be able to conjure my own pictures of what characters look like. Thank you, Mary. Okay. Awesome. All right. And I'm trying to get all this in. All right. And all of your contact information. So I want to make sure that we get all this in. You can find Laura all over the place. You can check her out online. Her website is lauracayouette.com. She has a blog. She has a Facebook page. She's on Twitter. She's on YouTube. She's on Pinterest. So all of that contact information is on your screen right now. For my video people, I have to remember video and audio. But for my audio people, don't worry. All of this stuff is in the description. Oh, you have a new friend. Sorry. Christine says, hi, Laura. All right. Awesome. I love it, you guys. I love a fanfare. So, yes. So you can find Laura all over social media, all over the web. So please follow her on her Facebook page. Follow her on Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Check out her blog. And if you want to learn more about Laura, go to her website, lauracayouette.com, and all of the ebook and the e-course, that information is on her website as well, and her entire book catalog, I'm assuming that's on your website as well.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about all of the books that you've ever written and want to purchase all of those books. So, oh wait, we got a next comment. Christine says, I guess she was a stand-in for Laura. She is genuine and wonderful and extremely skilled. Thank you, Christine. All right, awesome. Yeah, so you guys, follow Laura in all of her social media accounts. Stay in touch with her. Visit her website to learn more about her and all that she has to offer. And again, I just want to make sure that we repeat this coupon. So, to my viewers and my listeners, she just gave us, or she's going to give us, a special coupon. So just wait about 10-15 minutes after conclusion, and then she will give us this coupon. The coupon is 20% off sales price when you enter the code Hot Topics Podcast. That is for her e-course and e-book. So definitely take advantage of that coupon. All right, Laura, I think this is the longest episode I've ever done.
Well, it's a big topic. It's kind of scary,
Topic. I was like, oh, I got to keep it under an hour. But, but I got to let things flow, and it is what it is. But thank you for taking on this topic. I do appreciate it.
Well, and right back at you. I mean, this is a hard thing to do, is to try to tell the stories of people who you are not. And that's something Quentin was doing, was trying to tell the story of, this slave who rebels and gets the girl and all that stuff. And he is not that man. And that's the story he has been dying to tell until he told it. And, that is brave when you take on, I think it's brave to tell your own stories, but it's definitely brave to take on the skin of someone else and try to speak truth about that. when you have not walked a mile in those shoes. That said, Quentin's upbringing is such that he has access to a lot of this. Wait, my battery's about to die. He has access to a lot of this experience. He had an unusual childhood. So there's, it's not that he has walked, it's not that he's speaking in total ignorance. He certainly has some idea what he's talking about. But, I think we all can acknowledge that was brave.
Yes, absolutely. And I think he's half Asian, I think. So I would think
He's Italian, Irish, and Cherokee. No, not Apache.
oh, I thought he was half Asian. Okay.
No, no,
Okay.
he's half Italian, and then he's Irish, and I think it's Apache. I know it's Native American.
Yeah, and I don't think he has his own experiences, when it comes to race
Well,
and
now he just married an Israeli, so his children, he has 2 children now, and now they're half Israeli.
there you go. So I'm sure he has his own challenges when it comes to ethnicity and nationality and race and just looking at his movies, maybe I just noticed that his movies are getting bolder and bolder. So and he's challenging he's challenging the status quo, and he's challenging these things. And he made another movie, The Hateful Eight, where he uses the N-word. So it wasn't just the one movie that he did with Django. He actually did it again with The Hateful Eight. So um, he's challenging. I have to put the word in my mind, but he's challenging the status quo. He's challenging social norms. He's challenging racial norms as well, and being a white man. Well, I guess he's mixed in a way, but being one of his skin color, it's very bold to do that.
It is, and I think at the end of the day, and this might be the most, this might be the thing that I say that actually gets me in trouble. But at the end of the day, at the time, 10 years ago, when he made this movie, there were very few Black filmmakers who could get a movie made. And so it is sad but true that Quentin had to be the Black filmmaker to get that movie made. In the same way that it is sad but true that he had to be the female filmmaker to get Kill Bill made, because Kill Bill and a number of Quentin's movies star female leads and are female-driven stories, and women can't get those movies made, or they could not at that time. And so it is kind of strange that Quentin is the one getting Black stories and female stories told, but God bless him for daring to try to tell them if they weren't going to let the rest of us try and tell our own stories.
And I think that plays into white privilege, and it also plays into male privilege. The fact that because I think even if it was a Black director or a white female director, I don't think the story would have been told the same way. So the fact that the way that the movie came out is his creation, and he just incorporated a bunch of other life experiences of his of the actors into it as well. But
Yeah.
but on that point, it does play into white privilege, and
Yeah.
that
He's used his privilege well.
yeah, he used his privilege to push forward Black stories, and he used his male privilege to push forward female stories. And I think that's the unfortunate truth. But I
It is
think
sad that he's like the most important female filmmaker of the last 20 years.
And I think that I think I'm just gonna say it does put a pressure on white men to put forth stories that are outside of their race and outside of their gender. So I do think that,
well, if they'd at least just get out of the way so that we can tell our stories ourselves, that'd be good too. You know, I don't need for Steven Spielberg to tell my story, but if he would at least,
Yeah,
allow a girl to tell a story once in a while. And it's not on the directors, they're not the ones making this happen. But yeah, it will be interesting as we continue to evolve and continue to include more voices in storytelling. I look forward to seeing what movies look like 10 years from now and who is telling those stories.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, our second fan, Christine, made a next comment. I'm very excited to see performances and visuals in Will Smith's Emancipation now that it will be released in December. Thank you, Christine. All right, awesome, awesome. So yeah, and just um, I think having that having someone having that privilege, whether it's white privilege or male privilege or white male privilege, I think it's important for people like that to use their privilege, to put other voices forward, and that's what Quentin did, you know, and of
Yeah.
course, and now you have all these slavery movies because he used his white privilege, he used his male privilege to put forth to put these stories forward. And I think that is important for people who have that privilege to use that privilege to put other voices forward. That is
If
my
I could, I'd
opinion.
high five you right now.
All right, boom, high five. So I said what I said. If you have the privilege, use your privilege to put other voices forward. All right, so I think we got to wrap it up. We went
Yes,
way
we do.
over.
I have a coaching client in 10 minutes. So, and
Oh my god. All right.
I have a
Well,
coupon to make.
yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I do appreciate you being here, and I'll thank you for coming and tackling this topic with me. I do appreciate it.
Well, and thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. All right. I'll let you go. I'll follow up with you. I know I said stay on to the end, but I don't want to keep you.
Oh, I'm
So,
good. I'm good. I can wrap up with you.
oh, okay, cool. All right. So I'm gonna place you off camera anyway. So I will place you off camera. All right, you guys. And oh wait, Mary says bye. Bye, Mary. Okay, Christine says thank you. I love it. I love the fanfare, you guys. All right, so we have okay, so I'm gonna put up my contact information now. All right, so this is the longest episode I have ever done on Hot Topics. This is history, the longest episode ever. Uh, so, but all things must come to an end, you guys. So we have reached the conclusion of our episode, and my voice is going. I can feel it in my throat right now. But thank you so much for joining us today. So, whether you are watching this on video right now or you're listening on audio, please check out our other episodes and don't forget to follow and subscribe. And while you're at it, I gotta push through this because I'm really feeling it in my throat. So while you're at it, please let me know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. I will definitely appreciate your feedback. Or if you're listening on audio, if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or iHeartRadio, all those other podcast platforms, please leave us a rating. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know what you thought about this podcast. Let us know. Ratings help us. So please rate us. And as a reminder, this podcast is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about us, about our company, you can visit us online. Our website is www.astepAheadtutoringservices.com. You can also find us on multiple social media platforms. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Eventbrite, and WhatsApp. So please check us out across our social media platforms and please follow us. And I also want to let you know that we have a Hot Topics text list. So if you want to know about anything and everything that is Hot Topics, whether you want to know about any coupons or whether you want to know when the next live episodes are or when the audio gets released, sign up for our text list. Just text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. Again, just text the code Hot Topics, all one word, all in caps, to 917-764-3975. Sign up for our text list. Okie dokie. All right, you guys, and that is it for the show. Thank you again for coming on, and thank you to Laura again. And this is the essence of Hot Topics. It's actually speaking the truth. And I thank Laura for coming on the show and telling her piece. And I thank you guys for bearing with us. Oh my God, it's been an hour and a half, you guys. Okay, I really gotta go. All right, so thank you guys for joining us again, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you guys again. I'm now. I am signing off now. Bye.